So the current tech market right now is very tough. And I think the backend developers right now are in a much better position. And I'm going to explain why. As an example, I just grabbed three random examples of job postings. And check this out. These three examples, they are for front end, right? Senior engineer front end, senior front end engineer, and we have senior software engineer front end. Let's check the requirements. You can see here, let me scroll down. Okay, you have experience designing, whoops, designing and implementing maintainable performant APIs. Okay, professional experience with JavaScript, TypeScript, and Go. Okay, you also need experience with related technologies like gRPC, protobuf. So let's be honest, this is a full stack role. It's not a front end. Okay, it's a full stack. You need to know Go. Now let's see this other one. It's another front end engineer. Let's scroll down to see their requirements. Check this out. Okay, using React, fine. But then you see Node. Interesting. So it's not exactly front end. And then if you scroll down more, you can see demonstrate expertise building complex React applications, fine. And then excel at full stack problem solving from debugging React applications issues to optimizing MongoDB query performance. So this is not really front end, it's more of a full stack. And this is the worst example in my opinion. It says front end on the title, okay? And then when you scroll down, where are the requirements? Okay, you have a solid experience building full stack applications, ideally Go and React. You have knowledge about Kubernetes. Like, are you serious right now? This can't be serious. So, I'm going to explain why I think the backend developers are winning on the current job market, and why I think if you are just a front end developer, like a purely front end developer with no backend or no full stack experience, you're going to have a harder time to get a job. So I created a list with a bunch of concepts from backend and for front end. Let's assume that every single company out there is looking to reduce the team size, and it's looking to do the bare minimum in order to ship features, okay? So you have a real company building a real web application, and by real web application, I mean like a huge SaaS and not a small, crappy indie hacking project that a crazy uh, person on Twitter built. I'm talking real project that is way beyond two CRUDs and one Stripe integration, okay? Real project by real company, maybe with also VC money involved. So we're going to build a big system. Which one of these concepts do you consider absolutely essential, and which one do you consider optional? Let's see the backend concepts first. We have data modeling and database design. Okay, this is very essential. We have authentication and authorization, very essential. API design, if you're going like full stack with Rails and Elixir or Laravel and PHP, you're not going to design an API. You can go full server side rendering and server render the HTML. So this is optional. We have state management between requests and sessions. This is very much mandatory. Error handling and logging, it's important. Caching strategies, deployment and infrastructure, WebSockets and real-time communication. Maybe your app doesn't need that, so we can remove this. Background jobs and task scheduling, observability and monitoring, API rate limiting and throttling. So these are all mandatory. You can't build a real app without these. Now let's see the front end. Componentization. This is a nice to have. But I think that any backend developer can easily learn componentization and create small components instead of just rendering one huge HTML file. So, okay, this is mandatory. What about state management, prop drilling and context, component lifecycle and side effects? These three, they're pretty much specific to React. If you are server-side rendering by using vanilla Rails or Laravel, or maybe you are using React, but you have like a very simple front end, this is all optional in my opinion. So let's delete this. Routing and navigation, it's important. Server-side rendering and static site generation, that's just a plus. You don't need to know this. Code splitting and lazy loading. Okay, also it's a plus, a nice to have, but you don't need to know this. And yeah, sure, like I think caching strategies from the backend is a nice to have as well, but I think we can remove that. So what we have left is that if we reduce the size of the teams and we're looking for full stack developers that are productive, you have a much bigger list of prerequisites on the back end instead of the front end. You can easily build a real app with these concepts from the back end and just this on the front end. Okay? So if you are looking to become a full stack developer, or you are a backend developer, all you need to know to be productive is just these two concepts. But if you are a front end heavy developer that knows nothing about the backend, then you are in big trouble because you need to understand all of this. And I think like these two concepts are extremely easy to learn. Any backend developer can learn this. Now, I don't know if most front-end developers can fully understand how to model a database, especially if you're using Postgres instead of Mongo. This is a hard topic. Authentication, it's a hard topic. That's why you have a bunch of I was gonna say bad Next.js developers, but let's just say Next.js developers in general. They are always looking for a new auth library. And if you ask a backend developer to implement an auth system, they're gonna do it from scratch without using libraries, like most of the time. And the front end developer is like, no, this is too complex. I don't want to deal with this. And then you also have the same Next.js fanboys saying, I don't want to deal with deployment. That's too complex. I want to use Vercel. Okay, but if you are working for a real company, you need to know this. You cannot escape forever. You can't hide behind Next.js and Vercel forever. Someday you will need to study deployment. Someday you might need to deploy your full stack app on a VPS. Okay, you can't hide behind Vercel forever. So that's why I think now on the current job market where uh, most companies are looking for full stack developers, and most of the jobs that I saw, they had a much bigger list of requirements for the back end. And then on the front end, they were like, yeah, if you know React, it's good enough. You know, like 2 years ago when I was looking for my first international job outside of Brazil, it was very common to see front-end developer only roles that requested like React, Next.js, Redux, MobX, styled components. It was a huge list of front-end only topics. And now I don't find this anymore. All the job that I see, they're like, yeah, you just need to know React. Okay, but which meta framework, which UI library, which rendering strategy? Nah, you just need to know React. That's good enough for me. And then on the backend, it's like, oh, you need to know Kubernetes, you need to know Docker, you need to know how to deploy to VPS, you need to know AWS. So yeah, if you are a front-end developer right now, I urge you to start studying backend immediately. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time finding a job, unfortunately. And that's what I'm doing. I'm studying more backend because I always felt like it was an area that was lacking from my professional experience. So that's what I'm doing. I'm studying backend by studying Elixir and Phoenix, but sometimes I also studied those concepts on Node. But that's it. That's the unfortunate news for today. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.